Alright, today I want to talk about Codespaces in GitHub, and in particular show how I was able to get Cymax in the browser using this. So the idea of Codespaces is that you can launch a virtual machine or a container in the cloud that's running on GitHub computers. And you'll see in a little bit that we can log in, we get a shell, we can run programs, and we can connect to a VNC for GUIs. So all of that's configured inside a dev container inside a repo. So this is a typical repo. Here inside the dev container there's a Docker file, and the Docker file sets up all the environment. And so here I have started out with an Anaconda because I like to use Python in Cymax, and we set up a couple of things. Here we install a bunch of packages. Here we install some executables for HTML to PDF that I've used. This is the code for setting up Cymax. It just uses my Git repo for installing it on Linux, and we do a couple of things here. So when we're in our container, we will be user VS Code, and so we make sure that we own it. And then the rest of this little part down here is just starting a little desktop that we can connect to by VNC. Okay, so that's kind of it. You set up the environment inside the dev container, and then over here you click on code, and here I have already created a Codespace. And so we can just click on this and it will open it in a VS Code browser instance. Now this happens pretty fast because I've already built this. That Docker image takes something like 15 or 20 minutes to install because you need the Anaconda versions, you need the full LaTeX versions, and everything else. And so it takes quite a while. And so here we get VS Code in the browser. You can see here's an org file. This isn't interesting on its own. What is interesting though is if we come down to the shell here and run cymax.readme.org. So you can't see anything that's happened. We can click on ports, and the VNC is on port 6080. So I click on that little icon there. We'll connect here, type in our password, and there it is, Cymax in the browser. All right, and it's real, so I can run this, and this launches Jupyter Python and updates a plot. You can see a new time, and if you run this again, you can see the times updating, and you can add another thing here, and it will maybe we'll make it more go back to 1. Now it's really obvious. It went up and down. We can also export this, so I'll save it. It's Control-C, Control-E, L-O. And since I took the time to build that LaTeX in there, you see down here we get the PDF that's in here. So that's pretty cool. We also can use Magit, at least some parts of it. So here we have, we can see some, we've deleted this file, we've modified the README, and we have a new file here. So I'm going to stage this one, this one, this one, and we'll just commit it. So this is one thing I've noticed here and there. So temp Emacs 1000 is not considered a safe directory because it's accessible by others. So you can't always use every feature. This is a feature of running this in a container, I think, and a cheap solution is here we'll just redefine server ensure safedir so it always returns true, and then we will be able to do this. So let's say yes, update plot, Control-C, Control-C, and that's what's there. All right, and then let me delete some of these. I'll go ahead and delete the PDF. And let's go back to Magit, and we'll go ahead and push this to the repo. All right, and that's it. So I can close this and go back over to the terminal. You can see here that the command is done. Everything here is done. Get status is up to date with main, and if we come over here and go back to our repository, then you see here are the commits for update plot. So it's pretty remarkable that you can do all of these things in a browser. Cymax runs, for the most part, I haven't tested it like really exhaustively, but it does everything that I normally do on my own desktop. And the code spaces are persistent, so when I go back and connect to this, you know, you can see this code space has still been running even though I closed it, so you can still see this old stuff in the shell. And it might be worth noting, let's see, this looks like Emacs 0MQ, that's related to the Jupyter. Some things that are limitations here in Cymax, I use SQLite to index all of the org files, and that is saved persistently on my own machine, but it's not something that I save persistently here. So for example, let's see what happens here if I press no lexical let. That's interesting. Some of the key bindings also are strange. This is because maybe because I use a Mac keyboard, so I have to do Command X or DB headings. So this doesn't have any headings in the database because I haven't indexed any. So let's try org DB update buffer. Now that's going to index this so that when I look at this again, now we have one heading for the usage and I can jump right to it. Now this that SQLite database isn't currently persisted because it's not currently in the Git repo, so you would have to find a way to do that, and it's not even part of the Git repo. It's stored in another place. So that place is probably like home, VS Code. Let's just look in here. It's stored in this place here. So you can see it's there, but this is not something that is going to get persisted, and you would have to do some Docker magic and maybe run it in another container if you wanted to maintain this kind of thing. Sounds like an interesting project for another day to me, but maybe not today. So I think that's like the main points here. You can do all kinds of things. I'll put a link to this repository in the video description, and you can check it out. I don't know if you'll be able to run the Codespaces yourself. That is tied to having a GitHub team in an organization, and so I have that set up, and I think it's only set up for me to be able to run Codespaces. But you should be able to set up your own organization and have your own team, and you can get the Codespaces working there as well. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to show you a little bit of behind the scenes on how that works. So hope you enjoyed it,